So I think I understand that digitalization, the kind of revolution what is happening in India, is also making a lot of accountability. Because there is more transparency now, the flow of funds, and I think um, before there was, as you rightly said, a lot of siphoning of the funds and no accountability. I think digitalization is also helping this industry, and overall we see that artisans also at the ground level have started getting the benefits, because I think there is a complete transparency of linkages of their Aadhaar cards or whatever identification numbers they have. So, do you think that it has really helped the artisan industry in, let's say, if you talk about last 3, 4 years or 5 years?
So I think there is both kind of perspectives, that they are still marginalized, and second, that they have gotten a voice. So I'll say a bit about both. The first part, they are marginalized. That is because within the value chain, there are a lot of people who tend to take up maximum profit from the viewers when they're trying to do something. So they're called the middlemen, and they're most hated
Mm,
people in the entire value chain. The
right.
problem still remains, but not every middleman is where they're required also.
Mm,
And the second thing that I'm trying to say is a founder voice. So artisans now actually have a brand of their own. An artisan is a brand in itself now. And that is
okay.
something that has happened only because of digitization and
Mm,
only because of social media. So today, if an artisan goes online and say, I have this product, people pick up that product because they know they're getting it from the source and it will be cheaper. And more than, see, because cheap is a very important factor there for them rather than originality.
right.
I think I
Mm,
need to elaborate on that in your later question. But the artisan itself has become a brand today, and that has only
mm,
happened with the digitization and social media.
okay, great. So, as a young entrepreneur, you have started your own business. So, what would be your, you know, how do you encourage the other younger generation to come into this field? Because I see that there is a lot of things happening, but still a lot to be done to educate the younger generation to come into this field and do something about upliftment of the society at the grassroots level. So, what suggestions do you give to the new generation?
I think the simplest way to put is, अगर आपको झोला पकड़ के literally गाँव में जाके काम करने में मजा है, तो get into this, because at the
Okay,
end of the day, while you're doing your Zoom calls and while you're meeting your buyers and you're working with international brands, the work happens at the ground, and it
correct,
is not a fancy place. You really have to, you know, 48 डिग्रीज में भी जयपुर राजस्थान के गाँव में बैठ के आपको काम करवाना पड़ता है.
right,
So
right,
there is no fancy way around it. There's no fancy way
mm,
to put it. Eventually,
right,
you will have to get down to ground and work. So if you're ready for that, but the journey is very satisfying. It is
correct,
immensely, it's immensely joyful, because not only you're adding value to the product, there's so many people in the value chain you get to meet. They have an impact on you. I mean, if you
correct,
have an impact on them, that's an amazing thing. But they tend to leave an impact on you, and within the whole process you tend to create something beautiful, which not only you cherish, the buyer cherish, but also the people in the value chain eventually get to cherish. So it's a very fruitful journey that way, I would say. But yes, it's extremely, like that's what you guys said, gritty. So you really need to have grit and gumption and a lot of focus, because if you lose focus, then you're like, why am I here? I should do something else.
right,
And
right.
because you get extremely demotivated, so I often say, no, like घोड़े की ऐसे होती है ना, so just be
You have
focused,
to walk,
and you'll make it at some
right,
point. But you have to
right.
work it.
Right, 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 right. So, do you have, say, if we have to put in some suggestions to the government of India, say, because they are also putting a lot of efforts, and they also are involving a lot of stakeholders in involving in this whole process of developing this sector, like handloom or a handicraft, and then you explained about MSME sector and all. So, what would be the suggestions? Maybe a few suggestions to the government, that how do you think that the things can be channelized better from the perspective of higher production as well as higher consumption of these products, either in Indian perspective, domestic market, or for an export.
See, this is a two-pronged question. One, because you're addressing the grassroots pay production, and then you're also addressing how the international market and the domestic market is going to take up that product. So I'll
Correct.
address the grassroots first. So there's this very beautiful thing that happens in the agriculture sector, that you have a helpline number. You dial that helpline number. It's a toll-free number. You get a lot of details about agriculture. आज की rate क्या है, तापमान कैसे होने वाला है, and you get a forecast, and then you're able to work around it. In this case, what you can have a simply toll free number for the handicraft sector, where you can just call and you get to know about the schemes that are going to be beneficial to you, that help you increase your production. And
Okay.
then, like, you always have a number 9 to press and talk to the customer care executive. Similarly, there should be something like that where they can have their grievances addressed. Because I'll tell
Okay.
you why I'm suggesting this toll free number model. Because the moment you try to have a meeting with these people, it is never the grassroots artisan who's coming on the table. It is always
Hmm.
somebody who's managing that grassroots artisan. And
Okay.
his idea of what benefits is very different than what the artisan who at the ground root level is what he wants. So you want to
Okay.
have that voice, not the voice of somebody who has a very different benefit in his mind attached to the whole thing. So I think we need to listen to these people, have these grievances addressed. So that is one suggestion at the grassroots. And the second is, see, it's already an open channel. Anybody can come here and buy. But what I think is that we need, so handicraft also has a very it's there's a very good thing about handicrafts that a lot of countries there is not any custom duty that apply. So if
Okay.
you're importing handicrafts, sorry, if you're exporting handicrafts from India, a lot of countries, especially you, it's custom exempted if you have the right papers. So
Okay.
similarly, they can have different trade agreements with different countries, different nations, where you promote and because at the end of the day, what happens is सबको सस्ता काम चाहिए क्योंकि मशीन वाला काम बिकता है एंड देन वो चीप हो जाता है बिकॉज उस पर कस्टम कम लगता है सो आई थिंक कस्टम इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट व्हेन यू आर ट्राइंग टू do exports in handloom and handicraft. So addressing the export part, if you have a trade agreement with different nations which is in focus with handicrafts, exempting them from custom, that works very well. And within domestic market, I would suggest I think everything should sell. The machine embroidered should sell, the mill made should sell, handmade should sell, because only when a person has experienced a machine embroidered product, they would want a better machine embroidered product, then they would want a hand embroidered product, and then they would want a truly artisanal product that they can have in their almirah for tens of years. So I
Hmm.
think these steps hote hain even for a consumer to climb. You cannot assume that the consumer is going to want that kani shawl immediately. No, वो लुधियाना का पहले जो 100 पीस का वो स्टोल मिलता है they'll buy that. They would
Hmm.
want progress to a more refined form that eventually, if not a kani, they would want to own a pashmina which is hand embroidered,
Hmm.
genuine
Correct.
pashmina. So
Correct.
there are
Correct.
even for a consumer to climb to make those steps accessible for the consumer.
Okay. So, do you think that this awareness, I will ask you in two parts. One, awareness is about the marketing part, like the commercial part of the business, right? And then the second is awareness at the grassroots level. Do you think that the whole channel of flow of information is quite good so that there is a complete visibility as well as awareness within the textile value, your textile value chain for these handicrafts and handlooms?
So are you asking in this in perspective of cotton rack or in fashion industry in general?
I'm asking in general about the whole industry.
So I would say both yes and no, because
Hmm.
yes, there is information dissemination, but at the same time, there's a whole lot of greenwashing that has gone into this information,
Okay.
which is being
Hmm.
distributed. So
Hmm.
I think the first and the foremost thing that is I said, you have to make things easier for consumer. Before shoving it down their throat that this is sustainable, buy it. Just sell them a product which is good.
Hmm.
Sustainability follow later. But
Okay.
because right now there's so much focus on that we're doing this good work, and इतने सारे artisans का काम किया, इतना ऐसा carbon footprint कम है, इतना natural है. But at the end, how beneficial it really is, because we're not following any carbon credit system. There is
Right.
no measurement of the whole sustainability aspect to it. So you can say anything. There is nobody
Hmm.
to measure it. So until there is a measurement system in place, you cannot really say the information is correct.
Correct.
So
Right. Right.
the second way to look at it is any information is good information. So
Hmm.
even if you get bad information, then you're going to look for the right information. So
Right.
there is information definitely which is currently channelized for making the consumer aware, but that particular information is sent out only in directions that the consumer buys a particular product. It is not for the welfare of the consumer right now. So I think
Hmm.
that will happen only when there is a carbon credit system, or there is a process to measure it. Because you have a silk mark, so you know what authentic silk is. You have pashmina indication, GI indication, so you know what authentic pashmina is. But still, you end up buying fake pashminas, right?
Correct.
So
Hmm.
the more the scrutiny there is, the processes that are in place, then information is also going to be. validated.
Hmm. So do you think you need for this particular segment you need some kind of standards or certifications to be done so that it makes the whole process easy? You think that that would help?
That's a trick question because there are standardizations, there are certifications, but how much are they being followed? Like,
Hmm.
let's say I will not get into names. So let's say there's an X certificate that says you're sustainable and you're a
Correct.
fair brand, and they come and do an audit once in the lifetime of a brand.
Yeah.
So when they came and audited and they saw it was all good and happy and everybody was getting good wages, and then you reverted back to paying them only the bare minimum. But for
Hmm.
the world, you have a certificate of fair brand, fair wages brand. So
Hmm.
I think it has to be. It's not a lifetime certification. It has to be audited. If not every twice a year, it has to be audited yearly. So I
Hmm.
think certification makes sense because even right now, for certain certification, you just have to cough up money.
Hmm.
There is no audit. So that is a
Right.
huge difference. If I have to cough up 50,000 to 3 lakh rupees for a certificate, and I am doing a good, I'm actually doing the original work, and somebody who has the money and is doing mill made work, and they can produce that money for the certificate, and they can call their fabric
Product
whatever.
as yeah, yeah.
So it
Got
doesn't
it.
make sense. So
Right.
it's a trick question because you have certification places, but is it really meaningful and worthwhile? No, not yet.
Hmm. Right. Right. So Ramesh, maybe my last question would be, how do you foresee the growth of this segment? You think that another maybe 5 years or 10 years down the line, you see there is going to be an increase in consumption, increase in sales, and also similarly improvement in the value chain, so that you are easily able to cater to the demand, which is probably projected if the growth is good.
Absolutely. I believe that the growth is going to be incremental for a very simple reason post COVID, like I said. And this is my personal observation because during COVID, I was a part of a program with United Nations. And we were so there was a German brand called Chibo. And they were mentoring us. H&M was also a part of it at that time. And the whole idea was, West is waking up to the fact that, East has all the fabrics they need, and
Right.
it's only time that we have built up the production capability to serve them the platter. I often say this: we have the platter of textiles, just come and pick what you need, but we need to scale up the production. So I think one more important thing that you said about the value chains, this is a very good time for people to come in and work on indigenous fibers also, because
Okay.
indigenous fiber is picking up really well. Because at the end of the day, indigenous fiber existed because it suited a particular ecosystem.
Hmm.
GMOs were never a part of our cotton agriculture ecosystem, but they are today, and look at the mess that they have created.
Hmm.
Similarly, merino was never a part of our ecosystem, but it has created mess in the Pashmina ecosystem, if you ask them.
Hmm.
So people are reverted back to indigenous fibers. It will not take 5 years for you to see a really huge growth in this, but the work is happening right now, and I believe the seeds that we are sowing right now, it's going to get into a beautiful plant or a tree 5 years, more than 5 years from now, because a lot of see because the entire value chain has to be built from the scratch. You don't have the
Right.
machinery. So,
Right.
a very small example for carding of wool, said there's an organization that works with Desi Wool. So they partnered with the IIT Delhi, and they took 3 years to make a machinery for doing carding. It's a 100 kg machine, which can
Hmm.
only be with one community. So
Hmm.
imagine 3 years it took just to make them one carding machine. Now you have different communities across the country. So, because indigenous fibers have to be addressed with indigenous tools and which have been completely wiped out, you're looking at starting an industry from the scratch, which is
Hmm.
sadly the case. But yeah, I think we are building it, and after 5 years from now, maybe 10 years, we'll be in a very good place.
Great. Great. So, do you think that there should also be awareness at the level of education also? Say, for example, when you have uh, engineering courses and NIFTs and all, do they cater to this kind of segment as well during the education?
I think what they should really address to is, how textiles has been an inherent part of the ecosystem,
Mm,
not just wearing of the clothes that we do. So why I say ecosystem is because a person who was weaving was also farming, and there was a very intricate ecosystem that was happening back then. So people are trying to get back to roots and trying to address how this ecosystem actually helped. So if I
Mm,
say indigenous fibers, why were they beneficial? Because they were rainwater harvested. Today, when
mm.
we are facing climate crisis, but we need these rainwater harvested seeds. We need the rainwater harvested cotton. When we are looking at global warming, we need the indigenous wool from Rajasthan. We need the indigenous wool from Karnataka, from Jammu Kashmir and Himachal. So through a climate perspective also it is very important. So even if you have just a chapter which is the right information, because yesterday only some friend shared this online education platform had said that cotton is an animal fiber and wool is a plant based fiber. So this huge
Gap is
online
still there.
education,
Yes,
yeah, it is still there. So when they are getting this information wrong and they're disseminating it like that, you really have to see what you're feeding into young minds.
correct, correct. So that's why I asked you. That's why I asked you that how do we encourage the younger generation to come into this field? I
It
think
should be good.
yes, yes. So I think as I can conclude that you are one of the examples which I will always think about. That how you are really putting up your efforts at the grassroots level and just making something which is not a common thing, because we have been in this industry. I know a lot of people in this industry, but very few people are doing things like what you are doing. So I always appreciate that, and always whenever there are discussions, I always think about you when such kind of ventures or somebody is talking about things linked to the grassroots level and social entrepreneurship. I think Rameshwari, we could cover a lot of things, although it was a short conversation, but I'm sure that this interaction was really value adding, and I think it will encourage a lot of youngsters to look into this part of business as well. So I thank you, Rameshwari, for giving us time to have this chat.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope I'm able to live up to whatever you said for me.
No, no, no. Definitely, definitely. We are actually looking at you from the perspective of an ideal model. Maybe probably for the next chat, we will have some more informative knowledge, and we can discuss more about the growth of this particular sector.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Amit.
yeah. Thanks, Rameshwari. Thanks for this
Thank
time. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye bye.